G'day. Danny Crouch here. It is Tuesday, which means it's day 2 of my challenge. And my challenge today, or the challenges for today, is focus. So, what are we focusing on? Is your focus directed in the right way? And the strength that I will be focusing on today is connectedness. Why? Because that's my number 2. Of course, it is. Because with connectedness, everything happens for a reason. And in my eyes, she'll be right. It's meant to happen that way. So, what have we got to unpack today? Well, I like to reflect on the last couple of days, more predominantly yesterday. So, yesterday was day 1, which is my strength of maximizer, which is looking for ways to make things better. And the challenge is the levels of awareness. So, bringing from your unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence and then to conscious competence. So basically, things you know nothing about into the world of things you know you don't know enough about to you knowing about them and them developing them to become a skill. So what surfaced? Well, what I've identified, and if I look at focus and how things work with me, is and this is the beauty of strengths, okay? And from a Clifton Strengths perspective, and there are other strengths. We've got VIA strengths. We've got other sort of strengths assessments you can do. They're all great. They're all wonderful. They all have their pros and cons. I just love the Clifton Strengths because they really speak to me. But the focus here is on delivering strengths, and they've got highs and lows. What I sort of suggest, when you're using your strengths, you can be in the shit house or the penthouse, right? More of an Aussie saying. The Americans say it slightly differently. They say basement, balcony. I say shit house and penthouse. So basically, shit house is in a dark, sort of dingy place where it probably smells and you don't want to be. Where the penthouse, you're up on top of the world. You've got a great view. You seem to be doing all right. So we want to live in the penthouse, but often we can get dragged down to the shit house. Happens all the time. And for the naysayers, the skeptics, positive psychology, strengths-based psychology, all you seem to focus is on the rainbows and the sunshine. Yes, it can come across that way, but this is about focus. So if you can identify, yes, okay, it's not all sunshines and rainbows, but I do want to focus on sunshines and rainbows, okay? And if shit like a cyclone comes through, you'll see it coming. You'll know it's okay, but you want to focus on the good in it, okay? Because at the end of the day, a cyclone is just the weather. It'll come, it'll go. You might lose some furniture. Hey, it could be worse. You could lose a house. I understand that. I'm not trying to negate that. I'm not trying to say, don't worry about it. It's only your house. There's obviously things that can happen. But from a strengths perspective, there's highs and lows. And when reflecting on yesterday, this morning, I identified that over my journey, especially for the last 10 years since I've been introduced to the Clifton Strength Finder, I've gone through these massive troughs and hills and all these sort of things, because if I'm focusing on my strength from the penthouse, I'm doing great things. I'm happy with who I am. I'm kicking goals. I'm, living in my strength zone. However, if that shifts, and I still focus on my strengths, but I'm focusing on them from the outhouse, it does more damage. Now, I try to come up with analogies and stories, and the best one I could come up with, and I'll probably come up with a better one later, is when you start going to the gym, right, and you bulk up, you start to build muscle. That's great. You're building that muscle. You're building your strength. And yes, pardon the pun. I mean, pun intended. So you're building that muscle. But if you stop all of a sudden, because you've got more muscle, you'll end up with more fat, okay? So even though you're growing a strength, the downside is you're going to end up with more fat. Similarly, when let's say you're pushing weights, okay? And you start out, you can only push, 2 of those things on the end. You can tell I don't go to the gym. So you put 2 on the end of the barbell, you start pumping it. Now, do you do that for your rest of your life? As you get stronger, do you only use those 2 on the end, or do you start putting extra ones on? Yeah. So you're getting stronger. So your muscles are getting stronger, but so is the weight you're lifting. Okay. And yes, there is a pun intended in there. You are carrying a bigger burden. You are carrying a bigger weight. So if you can understand from the penthouse, you're living the life you want. there is greatness, there is wonder, there is all these blessed things that you can embrace. But in the outhouse, you've got fear, you've got self-sabotage, you've got a fear of failure, you've got a fear of success. And guess what? As you're growing that strength, you're growing the fear, self-sabotage, the fear of success, and the fear of behavior. So I'll be going through these sort of swings and roundabouts, and I've literally gone through them. I can almost identify them to the day over the last 10 years, where I'm focusing on my strengths from the penthouse, and then the penthouse falls down because my maximizer has maximized my strength so much that I haven't trained my muscle well enough to handle the outhouse strengths. And then I start to focus on them more, and it drags me down and it pulls me down. And I'll give you an example. And you've heard the saying, the money is the root of all evil. Okay. Now, I have an issue with money. Now, I didn't want to say a problem, and I didn't want to say a challenge. I say issue purely because I can even sense myself now articulating it and explaining it doesn't come naturally. And when I focus on it, and when I focus on talking about it, and when I focus on getting it, and when I focus on achieving it, I start to pull into the outhouse. Does that make sense? Now, if you spoke to salespeople and all this sort of stuff, you just say, oh, you're just afraid to ask for money. Great. That's your perspective. That's your strength. That's fine. I'm talking from experience. If I focus on what I'm good at, if I'm focusing on doing the best at what I'm good at, the money will flow. It's the law of attraction. That's the way it works. But as soon as I shift to focusing on that money, I'm in the outhouse. And the ebbs and flows, especially as an entrepreneur, especially as a business owner, not having the ability to fall back on a day job or a regular income, that shift from penthouse to basement or penthouse to outhouse can be so quick and so dramatic. And if I'm not consciously aware of it, bang, my focus shifts from penthouse to outhouse like you wouldn't believe. And everything comes through like a flood, like a cyclone, It's amazing, isn't it? So this is all the stuff that's going on in my mind over the last 24 hours and 24 years and since the day I was born. And this process is about me finding a way to articulate it, how to hone in my focus, how to better language what I'm talking about. Because I know what I'm talking about, but I've got no idea what I'm talking about. I know what I'm going to say, but I don't know what I'm going to say. Does that make sense? Maybe, maybe not. Because what I find is the disconnection between what you're thinking and what you're saying can be quite compelling, even when you're listening to someone else. And I'll give you an example. And this is what I was contemplating this morning on my walk with Pip, is it's amazing how people hear different words and different things. So if I say, that's what I said, if someone says the sky is blue and I say it's a nice day, people can see the connection there. All right. So I said it's a nice day. Someone else says the sky is blue. I say that's what I said. Well, no, semantically and literally, I did not say the sky is blue. I said it's a nice day. And in my mind, a nice day means the sky is blue. Therefore, I regurgitate or I articulate that's exactly what I said. But I didn't. So people can get hung up on words. And this is about curiosity. This is about communication. And it's about focusing on your strengths. It's focusing on what you want to achieve. That to me is connectedness. That to me is allowing others to be themselves. Because whatever's meant to be is meant to be. So when I say, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I do know what I'm going to say, I've heard it a million times in my head. I've said it before in the past. I've said something similar out loud, but I say it differently now. So I know I'm going to repeat myself. I know I'm going to say the same thing tomorrow, but just differently. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of gold there, and focus, even though focus is not a strength of mine, I plan on focusing on my strengths. Yeah, there might sound like a contradiction to you, but listen to day one and understand the difference between conscious competence, conscious incompetence, and unconscious incompetence. They're empowering tools. You can use them. The challenge is there for you to use. Make it your challenge. So you'll remember I talk about 3 words, my, the, and your. So it's my challenge here daily. I do my challenge and I align it with my strengths. The challenge is on the website. Make it your challenge and it becomes your challenge. Take care. Bye.